Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
It's Saturday the 18th of May. I'm Ciara Revens, and this was a week that saw election campaigning begin even without an election date. An assassination attempt on Slovakia's Prime Minister, Donald Trump's former fixer Michael Cohen get grilled, and big winners at the BAFTAs.
Grab a cup of something hot, put up your feet, and get up to speed on the 7 biggest stories of the week. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7.
It's news,
but not the news.
It seems like each week that passes brings us closer to a general election. The only mystery is when exactly that date will be. Rishi has refused to give any indication as yet as to when he has in mind to go to the polls, but this week saw plenty of campaigning from both the Tories and Labour. It started with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak making a speech on Monday that certainly sounded like the opening shot of an election campaign. Bringing that famous math teacher energy to bear, he tackled a wide range of issues while speaking at the right-wing policy exchange think tank. He was warning that the future contains both great danger and also the potential for transformation under any Tory government. He accused Labour of trying to depress their way to victory, but listing only gloom and doom when things are not bad, but the country wouldn't be safe under Labour.
In a more dangerous time, who can you trust to keep you safe? And it is only the Conservatives that have the bold actions required, the clear plan required to keep this country safe and give our families a secure future.
Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer was in the West Midlands meeting the newly elected Labour mayors, and he didn't have a lot of time for what he called Rishi's 7th reset in 18 months. He wasn't too impressed about the claims that the country would be at risk under a Labour government either.
The choice as we go into this election is now pretty clear. It's a choice between a changed Labour Party or continuing with this government, the chaos and division that's been going on for so long. And we can't afford another 5 years of this government's chaos and division.
On Tuesday, Defence Secretary Grant Shapps was in the spotlight as he addressed the Sea Power Conference in London. He had good news for sailors everywhere with the announcement that the UK is to order up to 6 new warships for the Royal Marines to improve Britain's special operations capability in the future. He also promised to cancel the scrapping of the HMS Albion and HMS Bulwark and held a new era for the UK's defence sector.
Very, very large shipbuilding programme, all possible because just last month we agreed as a government to spend 2.5% of our GDP on our defence sector because we think it's very, very important to make sure that those who would seek to do us harm are put off.
In a week that saw plenty of posturing and campaigning, The Times broke a story on Wednesday that Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has become concerned about how children are taught about gender in school and reported that teachers will be asked to stick to the biological facts and not discuss gender identity. The guidelines will also see an age limit imposed for when children can be taught sex education, with a ban on any explicit material before the age of 13. Labour's Nick Thomas-Symonds says that they haven't seen the report as yet, but any education programme for children needs to consider the modern world they live in.
But at the heart of this is the well-being of children and making sure they're equipped as well to navigate today, which is both what happens not just in their daily lives, but also the online world as well.
Parents will be provided with samples of the material to be taught under the new plan, and teachers instructed to avoid the highly contested area of gender identity. Policing Minister Chris Philip says the principles make sense.
Younger children shouldn't be exposed to kind of sexually graphic material, and very contested political questions like the sort of whole trans debate shouldn't be taught as fact.
As election fever ramped up, Labour MPs amused themselves on Wednesday before Prime Minister's question time by oohing every time a Tory MP entered the chamber in the hopes that another of Rishi's team might defect to the red benches. It wasn't to be, but the Prime Minister had another grilling from Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer, this time about the state of the UK's prisons, which appear to be in a full-on crisis. The level of overcrowding has meant that prisoners are being released early, with others being released released on bail rather than placed in cells. Starmer wanted to know how the Tories planned to keep the UK safe if they can't even provide details of which prisoners are being released.
Doesn't he think that rather than confiscating lanyards like some jumped-up milk monitor, he should stop issuing get-out-of-jail cards free to prisoners considered a risk to children?
The lanyards was a reference to Common Sense Minister Esther McVey, who has apparently decided to ban rainbow lanyards for the civil service as part of her war on woke. Rishi wasn't getting involved in that, though, instead pointing fingers at an opposition who haven't been in power for 14 years.
We understand the importance of prison, unlike one of his frontbenchers who said prison doesn't prevent crime. It's always the same with the Labour Party, soft on crime and soft on criminals.
Thursday saw a much more organised and focused event from Labour with carefully choreographed speeches, testimonials from voters and representation from big business and the security services, all aimed at making Labour's case for government. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer, in a white shirt with rolled up sleeves, offered what he called his first steps, consisting of 6 new pledges.
Now, we have changed the Labour Party to put it back in the service of working people. And what we seek, humbly, is the opportunity to change our country and put it back in the service of working people.
Friday saw a speech from Chancellor Jeremy Hunt, which specifically targeted Labour economic policies, in which he insisted a Labour government will mean higher taxes. Meanwhile, despite his many awful experiences on local radio, Rishi made an appearance on ITV's Loose Women, but it didn't go terribly well. He pledged to stay on as an MP if the Tories lose. He refused to give an election date, and then he got into a row with Janet Street Porter over why he hates pensioners.
I care deeply about pensioners because I also believe in a country where if you work hard all your life, then you should have the dignity and respect that you deserve in retirement.
It was another tough week for Ukraine as a new Russian offensive saw significant gains from Moscow in the northeastern Kharkiv region. Russia's attack plan has been widely telegraphed, but Ukrainian defences appeared under strength, and by Saturday, Russia's Ministry of Defence announced that it had captured 5 villages surrounding Kharkiv and another in the southern Donetsk region. The assault came as Russian Defence Minister Sergei Shoigu was removed by Vladimir Putin after 2 years in the job. The UK's Foreign Secretary David Cameron said it's time to go all out to support Ukraine.
This only underlines that this is a unjustified, illegal invasion, and he's now, as it were, invaded it again. We must do everything we can to help the Ukrainians.
Russian troops continue to advance, claiming to have made further gains in the Kharkiv region on Tuesday. Ukrainian President Zelensky has replaced the frontline commander in the region, and the Ukrainians are rushing reinforcements to the region to halt the advance. Zelensky publicly called for more air defences and Patriot missile batteries from its allies, and to demonstrate America's support, US Secretary of State was in Kiev on Tuesday with assurances that the much-needed weapons and ammunition are on the way.
I have come to Ukraine with a message. You are not alone. The United States has been by your side from day one, and we will stay by your side until Ukraine's security, its ability to choose its own path, is guaranteed.
Video emerged of the Secretary of State playing guitar in a Kyiv bar later on Tuesday, performing Keep on Rocking in the Free World. But with Ukraine under serious pressure, there's real concern that the promised supplies may be too late. Ukrainian MP Kira Ruddock says it's not just America that needs to deliver on its promises either.
We need the deliveries to come shortly. So as of today, we need all the political promises that have been made to become the weapons in the hands of Ukrainian soldiers.
Ukrainian President Zelensky travelled to Kharkiv on Thursday, where he met with commanders and said that things remain difficult, but that the situation has stabilised and that his troops continue to inflict heavy casualties on the attackers. Russian President Putin was on the road too. He travelled to Beijing to meet with the Chinese president and signed a new agreement to deepen mutual ties. That could be bad news for Ukraine as Russia seeks more weapons and ammunition. But Xi Jinping was keen to emphasise that China wants to play a role in bringing peace to Europe.
Both sides agree that a political solution to the Ukraine crisis is the correct decision. The Chinese side looks forward to the early restoration of peace and stability on the European continent and will continue to play a constructive role to that end.
Putin expressed his gratitude for the support of his Chinese counterparts.
I will, of course, inform Mr. President of China on the situation around the Ukrainian crisis. We are grateful to friends and colleagues for the initiative they put forward to solve this problem.
There was widespread shock on Wednesday as Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico was the subject of an assassination attempt as he left a meeting in the town of Handlova. A man in the crowd fired 5 shots at close range, at least 2 of which hit the PM, who had to be rushed to hospital, first by car, then by helicopter. He had emergency surgery and, according to his deputy PM, remains in a critical condition. There was universal condemnation of the attack, with EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, along with US President Joe Biden, and even Russian President Putin sending their sympathies and support. The 71-year-old man who fired the shots was arrested at the scene and an investigation is ongoing. Outgoing Slovakian President Zuzana Kabutova sounded genuinely alarmed about the incident.
I'm shocked by the horrific and malicious attack on Prime Minister Roberto Fico. Something serious has happened, which we're probably not yet aware of. A physical attack on the Prime Minister is primarily an attack on a person. It's also an attack on a democracy.
This week saw Israeli forces push deeper into the southern Gaza city of Rafah as thousands more Palestinians fled to Al-Moasi, a small coastal town already struggling with overcrowding. It followed last week's shock US announcement that they'd be pausing a shipment of more than 350,000 heavy bombs over fears they will be used in Rafah. And Labour MP Zahra Sultana said the UK should follow suit.
Over 35,000 people have died, 70% women and children. Gaza's healthcare system completely dismantled, and the government has done very little. In fact, when we look at the role that we're playing, we are aiding and abetting what are war crimes that are happening on a daily basis.
And while UK Foreign Secretary David Cameron claimed a major offensive on Rafah would be a very dangerous move from Israel, the Foreign Secretary categorically was still ruling out an arms embargo.
Well, I was pressed to do that a few months ago, and the very next thing that happened was a massive Iranian attack on Israel. So I don't think some sort of political declaration is the right answer.
As the week went on, UN officials estimated that up to 500,000 people may have fled Rafah. The attack has led to aid organisations having to pause or reduce the flow of aid into Gaza, and a UN vehicle was struck on its way to a hospital on Monday. Meanwhile, the Israeli Prime Minister spoke at a ceremony in Jerusalem to mark Israel's fallen soldiers, and he described the ongoing war with Hamas as an existential struggle. Spokesperson David Menser said there won't be any reduction in intensity for the next phase of operations.
We've done everything in our power to get our hostages back, and that has meant moving or redeploying our troops in different areas. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked. We'll always put our hand out to peace first, but it is brute military force together with negotiations which gets results.
South Africa has once again turned to the International Court of Justice, filing a case asking for an urgent order to end the assault on Rafah. The hearing, which began on Thursday, saw South Africa demand a total ceasefire to allow aid to flow into Gaza, along with access for reporters and war crime investigators to gather evidence. Israel presented its response on Friday morning. There was some good news as the US military has finally finished and installed the floating pier off the coast of Gaza, which should speed up aid deliveries. Pentagon Press Secretary Major General Pat Ryder is hopeful it will make a significant difference.
Clearly, land routes will be optimal, but as you know, we continue to see challenges in terms of getting aid in via ground. We're going to continue to employ this method to work with the international community to get aid into the people of Gaza.
Still to come on the Standout 7, a big night at the BAFTAs, and Donald Trump battles on in his Manhattan court case.
Right after this. Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Welcome back.
A new report into traumatic experiences in childbirth this week painted a shocking picture of the standard of maternal care across the UK. An all-party parliamentary group published the report on Monday, and it revealed that some women have suffered post-traumatic stress disorder because of horrendous experiences when having a child. Conservative MP Theo Clark was the chair of the inquiry, and she says they've uncovered stories of women in labour being mocked or ignored and left with permanent damage after negligent treatment by midwives, nurses and doctors. providers.
There does seem to be a postcode lottery for maternity care in this country, and that's something that I don't think is acceptable, that depending on where you live, you will literally be offered a different level of care in terms of how you're given support during childbirth and afterwards.
The report called for significant changes in how the 600,000 women who gave birth every year are cared for, while the NHS are currently paying out over £1 billion per year, settling legal claims around medical negligence in maternity care. Women's Health Minister Maria Caulfield apologised to mothers affected by birth trauma and says the government is focused on the issue.
We're putting in record levels of funding, over £189 million extra a year into maternity services. We're increasing the number of midwives. We're focusing on those units that have the poorest performance, and we're seeing neonatal and stillbirth deaths fall.
In a difficult week for the NHS, a new Newsnight investigation has found that there are increasing numbers of patients being left in corridors because of a shortage of rooms and a reluctance to delay ambulance services. So-called corridor care has been condemned by patients as degrading and embarrassing, but it's recommended as part of the NHS's continuous flow model, which is supposed to cut down on A&E waiting lists. The government has promised 40 new hospitals to ease the pressure on the NHS, but speaking to Radio 4, Sir Julian Hartley of NHS Providers says he has real concerns about when those hospitals will actually be on stream.
I think there's an acknowledgement that the NHS needs real investment in its infrastructure, not least because there's a big focus at the moment from government on the productivity of the NHS. And of course, I know because I see it, productivity is so much more improved and enhanced when you have modern, well-equipped facilities.
Donald Trump has been back in court in Manhattan all week as his election interference trial continues. Last week saw adult actress Stormy Daniels testify, and this week Trump's former lawyer and fixer Michael Cohen is in the witness box. He's already served jail time for his role in the alleged cover-up of payments to Stormy, and Trump's defence are keen to paint him as an admitted liar who is obsessed with getting Donald Trump. Cohen testified on Monday that everything required Mr. Trump's sign-off, and the later part of the week saw Trump's defence team cross-examine him at length. Cohen's former lawyer, Lanny Davis, told ITV News that Michael Cohen is a credible witness.
It's not about believing Michael Cohen. Everything he says is corroborated by somebody else or by the written word. Believe what you see with your own eyes. So my advice to him is tell the truth, which he has done, and it's all backed up.
After the chaos of Eurovision, the BAFTAs were a welcome reprieve, with hundreds of Britain's biggest TV stars taking to the red carpet on Sunday. Top Boy was one of the big winners, picking up awards in the supporting actress and coveted Best Drama Series categories. And The Sixth Commandment and Happy Valley also receiving 2 BAFTAs each. Meanwhile, it was disappointment for The Crown, who failed to win any of their 8 nominations. The highlight of the night was the Lifetime Achievement Award presented to Lorraine Kelly by the actor and fellow Scot Brian Cox.
And I never, ever take it for granted that so many people trust me with their stories. And I'm so honoured that our viewers think of me as a pal, they think of me as their friend, and that's incredible. Thank you so much. I'm on the telly tomorrow, but I'm going to celebrate tonight. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Hey, it's Danny Pellegrino from Everything Iconic. Ready to upgrade your style game without blowing your budget? Check out Quince. They've got all the good stuff, shirts and polos, activewear, and fine leather goods, all at 50 to 80% less than other high-end brands. And the best part? They're all about safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing. Get that luxury vibe without the luxury price tag. Hit up quince.com/upgrade for free shipping and 365-day returns on your next order. That's quince.com/upgrade.